The train car trapped in time. Beneath a slate-gray sky, where the wind whispered through skeletal trees and the earth bore the silence of abandonment, a forgotten stretch of railway slumbered in the outskirts of a town that had long stopped remembering it. The tracks, rusted and half-swallowed by moss and time, led to a single train car, unmarked, unlisted, and inexplicably intact. It was discovered by accident. A pair of urban explorers, drawn by rumors of ghost rails and derelict stations, stumbled upon it while tracing old maps that no longer matched the terrain. The car stood alone, detached from any locomotive, its paint faded to a dull maroon, its windows clouded with age. It should have been unremarkable. But it wasn't. From the moment they approached, the air changed. The temperature dropped, not sharply, but subtly, like the breath of something ancient brushing against their skin. One of them, a woman named Mara, paused at the threshold. She swore she heard a faint violin playing from within, though the car was sealed shut. Her companion, Theo, dismissed it as wind through the trees. But when they forced the door open, the music stopped. Instantly. Inside, the car was pristine. Not dusty. Not decayed. The seats were upholstered in velvet, the brass fixtures gleamed, and the scent of lavender lingered unnaturally in the air. A newspaper lay folded on one of the seats, dated 1911. A pocket watch ticked steadily on the floor, though its hands spun counterclockwise. And the temperature inside was neither warm nor cold, it was wrong. Like stepping into a place that had forgotten the rules of physics. They felt watched. Not by eyes, but by time itself. Mara reached for the newspaper. As her fingers brushed the yellowed paper, the world around her shifted. For a split second, the train car was full, passengers dressed in Edwardian fashion, chatting, reading, sipping tea. A conductor passed by, tipping his hat. Then it was gone. The car was empty again. But Mara was no longer sure she had imagined it. Theo, skeptical but intrigued, began documenting everything. He used infrared cameras, EMF meters, even an old Polaroid for good measure. But the photos came out wrong. Some showed the car empty. Others showed blurred figures. One showed Mara sitting beside a man in a bowler hat, who hadn't been there. The echoes grew stronger. Each object they touched seemed to trigger a ripple. A child's toy train, tucked beneath a seat, brought forth the sound of laughter and the scent of peppermint. A pair of gloves, stitched with initials, conjured the image of a woman staring out the window, tears streaking her powdered face. These weren't hallucinations. They were memories. And the car was full of them. In the corner, beneath a loose floorboard, Theo found a journal. Its leather cover was cracked, its pages filled with frantic handwriting. It belonged to a man named Elias Hart, a railway inspector from 1909. He had discovered the car under similar circumstances, alone, untouched, and impossibly preserved. His entries grew erratic. He spoke of time loops, of passengers who vanished mid-journey, of clocks that bled sand instead of ticking. His final entry was a warning: do not stay. The car remembers. And it does not let go. Mara wanted to leave. Theo insisted they stay longer. He believed they were on the verge of a breakthrough, a temporal nexus, a living artifact. But the car had begun to change them. Mara aged in reverse. Her hair darkened, her freckles faded, and she began speaking in phrases she didn't recognize. Theo, meanwhile, began forgetting things: his birthday, his sister's name, the year. Time was unraveling them. They realized that certain objects acted as anchors. A conductor's whistle, a passenger's brooch, a ticket stub, they were tied to specific moments. Interacting with them pulled the car into those times, briefly but vividly. And each time, it became harder to return. One night, the car shifted entirely. Mara and Theo found themselves in 1943, during a wartime evacuation. The car was packed with frightened children and stern nurses. Outside, bombs fell in the distance. They tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. Only when Mara threw the brooch out the window did the car snap back to the present. But the present was no longer stable. The car began flickering, sometimes 1887, sometimes 2002, sometimes a future they couldn't comprehend. The walls pulsed with light. Voices overlapped. Time was collapsing. They tried to destroy the car. Fire didn't catch. Tools broke. GPS failed. The car existed outside of permanence. Then came the paradox. Theo theorized that the car wasn't just a vessel, it was a prison. Not for people, but for moments. Every emotion, every memory, every fragment of time that had ever passed through it was trapped, looping endlessly. And the car fed on it. It was alive, in a way that defied biology. A construct of chronology, a wound in time. They weren't the first to find it. Elias Hart had. So had others. The journal listed names. Some had vanished. Some had gone mad. One had aged 70 years in a day. Another had become a child again. Mara wanted to seal it. To bury it. But Theo had changed. He no longer wanted to leave. He believed the car held answers, perhaps even immortality. He stepped into one of the echoes and didn't return. Mara fled. She found herself outside, in the woods, the car behind her. But it was different now. The paint was fresh. The windows clear. And inside, she saw herself, sitting beside Theo, laughing. She ran. Years passed. Mara tried to forget. But the car appeared again. In dreams. In photographs she hadn't taken. In places it shouldn't be. It was following her. Or perhaps, she had never truly left.